We're here at the University of Florida's College of Journalism and Communications Innovation News Center. Here speaking with Professor Ted Spiker from the College of Journalism and a professor of journalism here at the University of Florida to discuss social media and its impact on journalism. So, Professor Spiker, I had a question for you, obviously. How has social media really impacted journalism and the field of reporting as a whole?
Well, I think the amazing thing about social media is that it has changed the field completely in a number of different ways. So journalists especially are used to being the broadcasters of news, broadcasters of reports. So we are the ones speaking, we're the ones talking, we're the ones who are writing and getting the information out. But social media especially has turned it into a two-way street. So we're getting feedback, immediate feedback, where we can find out not only information, but we can find out how our audiences are reacting to that information. That's one way. It also has changed the field completely in terms of competition, because now we're just not competing against fellow media members, we're competing against everyone, because everyone potentially can be a journalist. They're on the scene with their smartphones, they're able to gather video, they're able to gather pictures, they're able to write, they're able to do our jobs, maybe in not quite the way we would do them as journalists, but in a way that still contributes to any particular narrative when it comes to a particular story. That's just two of the ways. There's so many different ways in terms of ways we market our stories, in the ways that we push out news in a breaking fashion. Social media is now the place where we break news. We don't break news in newspapers. A lot of times we don't break news on TV or even on the web. It's social media, on the phone. And that's where news is coming from.
So how are you making sure students understand the value and the importance of social media when it comes to working in the field of reporting and working in the field of journalism?
So I think the real trick is for schools like us and for training young journalists and journalists who are getting into the field and from a different field, is that social media is now one of the tools that we use. So it doesn't mean that we have changed our values. It doesn't mean that we've changed our commitment to quality reporting and to quality writing and to quality broadcasting. It just means that we have to take this information, we have to vet it, we have to ensure its accuracy, we have to do what we would normally do, but maybe in a different way. So in the past, maybe our only tools were a pen and a piece of paper, or maybe it was just a camera and you're on your way. But now it's part of a whole range of tools that we have to use. So we have to teach our students and today's journalists to be able to figure out when are the appropriate times to use those tools, how to use those tools effectively to communicate in a two-way street with the audience. And it's just one of many things that we're now expecting of our media members, is to be responsible journalists.
So I think one of the other big things is to kind of make sure the students understand that not only how they use it in their field to be a reporter, but also to how to understand how to use it to get their own message out there,
Sure.
to really kind of put them in the forefront of the media through branding. So
Right.
how has branding also impacted journalism? Because you didn't see that in the past. You didn't have reporters who really trying to show off themselves. They were showing off their work. So how has that also changed?
And that's a great point, because in the old days, back in the day, as we say, it used to be the reporter worked independently. They were part of a brand. They were part of a bigger brand, whether it was a newspaper or a TV station or any other forms of traditional media. And generally that reporter, while people maybe knew who that person was, they weren't the brand as much as the brand was. Today, the individual can be as strong of a brand as the media organization, and they can work together too. So in days past, our journalists, we don't market, we don't do any marketing, we report the news and we, let the readers decide what they think. That's still an important value for us. But in today's very competitive market, it is important for our media members, anybody who's doing media, to also have a sense of personal branding so that you can push out that information that's important for our consumers to read and to watch. So your question, how do we do it? So I think what's really interesting is that there's no one way. Every media member, every person is going to have a different social media strategy, and it's up to the individual as well as the organization to figure out what that strategy is. So one of the things I like to tell my students is, you can take any recipe. Let's take, meatloaf or pizza or whatever. Okay, let's take pizza. Probably more people like pizza than they do meatloaf. Can we agree on that?
Yeah. Well,
okay.
We'll agree. Yeah.
Okay. So we take pizza. We all like it. There's a base. There's dough, there's sauce, cheese. Let's just assume that's the base. Now you can figure out what your toppings are. Some people are going to go pepperoni. Some people are going to go peppers and onions. Some people are going to go with the works. Your social media strategy is your pizza. You're going to decide what goes on it. So what are those elements? Some of those elements are reporting. I'm pushing out information. Some of those toppings are promotion of your own stories. Some of those elements are humor. Some of those elements are promotion of other people's work. Some of those elements are interaction with your audience. So how you decide to use those toppings, how to use those tools, kind of defines your social media personality and your brand. Some people just go one way and one way only. They report straight. Some people are one way only and just have humor. I think the smart media member has a pretty diverse pizza, if you will. They're able to do a lot of things well.
So would you say basically at this point, if you want to be in the field, you have to be branding yourself almost constantly?
I think you have to be. I don't know that it has to be constant, and I think social media is a function of personality. I think you're going to be more competitive and better prepared if you're branding yourself, but there's also a line, right? So I think branding, again, this is from a journalist perspective. This is not from somebody who is an expert in branding. But I think that there's a point where branding crosses the line to being obtrusive. Somebody who's over-branded is maybe somebody I don't want to connect with, because ultimately what branding is about in social media, I think, is about connecting with audience. Does that serve a greater purpose in terms of story ideas you get, in terms of more people reading your work? Yes, we hope so. But ultimately, that brand has to fit who you're trying to reach. So I think it takes some thought and it takes some strategy to think about, how do I let my personality come through and be genuine to who I am and still allow you to reach the end in terms of what you want as a media professional?
Okay. Well, I do appreciate you talking to us about
Pizza?
social media
And pizza? Yeah, okay.
It's pizza. Everyone loves it. About social media and branding and how reporters and journalists are using it. So, thank you all for spending a little time with us and hearing from Professor Spiker on these important topics.